Justice, I don't like breaking bad news, but I think that's what today's show is going to be about. What do you think?
I thought Breaking Bad was over, so I didn't know we had news. But yeah, I agree.
Yeah, dare I say scandal? Yeah, I'm not a big fan of hyperbole. I mean, we do got some pretty catchy titles here on the channel, but this is actually something pretty serious when it's coming to Toyota's management of how they've advertised their first fully electric vehicle on sale in global markets. It's the Toyota bZ4X. And this story that we're about to share with everyone is something I found out about from the Electric Vikings awesome YouTube channel. So I rarely do this, but I do want to shout out the Electric Viking, give them a follow, a subscribe if you're interested in all things EVs, because we're not affiliated. I don't know the guy, but he's got some awesome content over there. So
Yeah,
one
they
of
have
the
some great stuff.
yeah, great stuff. He's in Australia, so he's got a different perspective on everything from the whole global perspective. But
He's in Australia, which you get from the name Electric Viking. You automatically think Australia, of course.
yeah. Well, we'll tie it to the Vikings right about now, because one of his viewers on the Electric Vikings channel shared with him a kind of breaking news article out of Norway. It's in Norwegian. It's from Norway's #1 EV reviewing resource. It's a website called, I'm going to pull it up, Elbil24. I don't know how you say 24 in Norwegian, but can't forget that in Norway, they are among, if not the highest EV adoption on the planet. So when I say Norway's top EV reviewer, that actually means something if 80% of new car buyers are going electric or plug-in hybrid, as they are in Norway. Now, Justice, you and I have talked quite a bit about the bZ4X and its Subaru sibling, the Solterra. Pricing isn't all that bad, but when it comes to charge times and range of the all-wheel drive variants, it's been tough for us to recommend the bZ4X to prospective EV drivers. Am I overstating our opinions?
No, not at all. Not at all. And I just want to clarify for everybody because I know we get some pushback on this. Personally, I am a huge Toyota fan. I love Toyotas. It has nothing to do with it being a Toyota. It's just not a great electric vehicle. That
Yeah.
doesn't mean we hate Toyota. I love Toyotas. There's only two that I'm not super fond of. Everything else, I love theirs. So we don't come from that place. Trust
No,
me.
my first car was a 1995 Toyota Avalon, and I have nothing but good memories with that car. But when it comes to building an electric vehicle from the ground up, you're starting from scratch with a whole new engineering process. So just because Toyota's combustion vehicles and their hybrids, traditional hybrids, are great with great reputations, it doesn't mean it's necessarily going to translate to the full EVs as we've seen here. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. We're going to go to Elbil24, the Norwegian EV reviewers. I have translated this, and sometimes there are weird translations. But I'm going to break down the summary of what they found here, okay? Apparently in Norway, there are plenty of reservations for the Toyota bZ4X fully electric vehicle. It's been a popular car in Norway. And now that the stop sale is over, some reservation holders are able to get their hands on the EV. Now, the reviewers at LBL24 were among those first reservation holders, and they test drove and then did a very scientific range test of the bZ4X, in addition to doing a charge test from 0% all the way to 100%. And the results of their first tests shocked them. It shocked them to the extent that they ended up doing that same test 3 times, not 2, but 3 times, to see if they could get some kind of consistency in their results, because they were shocked. Now, these range tests that they do over there are standardized by a certain percentage of highway driving, city driving, and so on. We can get into those details here in a second, but they're standardized range tests. They're trying to be accurate. And what they found was quite shocking. So here's the summary. Toyota advertises that the bZ4X has a 71 kilowatt hour usable battery. That is what Toyota representatives had stated multiple times at auto shows, test drive events, etc. However, in all 3 tests that these Norwegian EV testers did, They found that from 0 to 100%, there was only 62 kilowatt hours of usable battery. Okay, that is a significant drop, but that's not really the end of the world, right? Like maybe it was a messaging mishap, right? But when it comes to range, Justice, this is where I get really frustrated with what's going on with the bZ4X because I want it to succeed, but this is tough, okay? Rated range. I'm going to go ahead and pull up Toyota's USA website so we can show everyone Toyota's claims and I guess EPA testing for the bZ4X. Not sure how this has turned out to be. You can see,
and that's the part I have questions with all of this.
me too. So we need more info, but still, 3 standardized range tests came up with the same result and the same ballpark result. I wonder how they ended up with these EPA numbers. As you can see, the pricing for the bZ4X starts at about $42,000. Here we go. This is the nitty-gritties I was looking for. Okay. So we're talking about the all-wheel drive variant, which if you look into the details, the all-wheel drive variant is rated for 227, 229 miles of range in that ballpark. It's under 230, right? Let's see if we can pull up the details here in a moment. Justice, can you pull up the exact all-wheel drive bZ4X range while I go on?
Yeah.
That would be helpful. Thank you. All right. So the testers were expecting to get roughly 220 to 230 miles of range on a charge from 100% all the way down to 0 completely empty battery. Now, what they found on the first test was in 70-degree Fahrenheit weather, 190 miles of range. In the first test, they said the roads were wet. So like, well, maybe it dropped all the way down to 190 because the roads were wet. So they did it again, and they got around 195 miles of range. The third time, same ballpark, under 200 miles of range. This is all in roughly 70-degree Fahrenheit weather. They did it in late summer up in Norway. Guess they're just sharing this information with us now.
That's California winter weather.
Yeah, well, all right. If you're in Norway, not let alone other parts of the world, if you're in Norway, how bad is the bZ4X going to be when it comes to range when it's 20 degrees Fahrenheit outside? That's pretty scary. So they went on to do some calculations. And did you find the range, Justice?
228 miles.
Okay, 228 miles of EPA certified range for the Toyota bZ4X all-wheel drive. The figures I've got up on the screen, those are for the front-wheel drive variants. Not too many front-wheel drive EVs coming out, but the bZ4X is one of them. All right, so the number to match or exceed was 228 miles of EPA rated range, and they were consistently getting between 190 and 200 miles of range. All right, so there's controversy number 2. Number 1 was the usable battery was way lower than Toyota had been advertising at auto shows with their spokespeople, etc. Number 2, controversy that is just kind of building a sad case that I'm getting really concerned about, is that range in the real world with 3 tests at good temperatures. Only one of them had wet roads, the other 2 had dry roads, was between 190 and 200 miles of usable range. That's not too good for a 2023 model. Number 3, charging speeds. Now, Justice, the peak charging speeds of the bZ4X are quite pitiful. If it had 200 miles of range and charged really fast, it may not be that bad of a deal, right? Like,
yeah, I mean,
what do you think?
It's still, I mean, I still have issues with the
personally
with the range.
I wouldn't buy it.
Yeah, but yeah, I mean, if it at least had faster charging that you could get in and out of a charging station if you're driving, then that would be fine.
Now, right now, I'm trying to pull up the all-wheel drive's rated charging speed. Let's see. See who can find it first. You, I, or someone in the chat.
Charging speeds?
Okay, yeah. It looks like the all-wheel drive bZ4X has a different battery pack from a different battery supplier, and it is advertised to just have a maximum charge rate of 100 kilowatts. That is pretty bad. Now, when
Yeah.
it comes to what they found in Norway, I guess they actually beat that by a bit. They found 112 kilowatt peak charging speeds, but it still
Which
took about an
still
hour to
sucks.
charge.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, if you're new to EVs, you can easily find an EV on the market today, like everything from the Ford Mustang Mach-E to the Volkswagen ID4 to my own Ioniq 5 and every Tesla that's going to be charging about twice as fast as that. Okay. So a 2023 model, the Toyota bZ4X, that costs between $42,000 and $50,000 out the door. You don't want to be spending that much money on an EV that's going to have 200 miles of real world range and take about an hour to charge at DC fast chargers. I would go for a Chevy Bolt. If I was like in the market for a budget EV, I would rather pay even $30,000, slightly over MSRP. I would rather pay 30 grand for a Chevy Bolt in 2023 than I would pay $45,000 for a bZ4X with these kinds of specs. The Bolt still charges slow, but at least it's got decent real world range. Justice, have you seen that some people are able to get like 250 miles on a charge with the Bolt?
Yeah. Yeah. The
It's
Bolt
not bad.
is a better buy than the bZ4X. The bZ4X is more of a Nissan Leaf level.
Yeah, and there was a time and a place for that. It was,
Yeah. It was
2016.
yeah. Yeah, it was a few years ago. And that's the problem I think that we have with the bZ4X. If this is a startup automaker or an urban vehicle, I think we'd be like, okay, whatever. This is Toyota, and there's an expectation with Toyota and Subaru that is higher than what they are putting out here.
Totally agree. Totally agree. I'm gonna pull up some information because Mark is with us. He is the battery expert. I am not. I'm kind of like an EV negotiation price point specs expert, but definitely not a battery expert. And I think this comment right here is really good. And I'm going to pull something up, Mark, that will kind of answer this question. Mark says he would like to see what the charge discharge curves look like and how conservative they are. We have a charge curve courtesy of Inside EVs. Love their content that I'm about to pull up. Trying to find how long it took to get this charging done. All right. So Inside EVs, their team tested an all-wheel drive bZ4X. Let me make sure it's all-wheel drive. Yes, indeed, all-wheel drive. And it took an entire, oh my gosh. This is so much time, Justice. This is so long. Okay, Justice, and everyone with us. From 0 to 90%, not 100%, 0 to 90%. It took Inside EVs 93 minutes to charge it. That is an hour and a half, you guys.
That really is a Nissan Leaf 2018.
But it costs so much more.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm a fan of going for a Nissan Leaf if you're on a $25,000 budget, $20,000 budget, you need a used EV. I'm a fan of that, but not a fan of spending 45 grand for what we're about to look at here. So this is courtesy of Inside EVs. Here is their charge test with the all-wheel drive variant. Times are up here at the top. The charge curve, just for you, Mark, is right here. You can see in their test, they did not reach 100 kilowatt peak charging speeds that are advertised by Toyota. In Norway, they did. They reached 112 kilowatt peak speeds. But that is just rough, Justice, because with my Ioniq 5 and with an EV6 or a Tesla, even to some extent, a more recent Mustang Mach-E and ID4, you can be in and out of the charging station in under 30 minutes. Some people think that's way too long, but for my family, it works just fine. No tailpipe emissions, costs less than gas. But this, Justice, I'm not willing to sit around for an hour and a half.
No, that would add so much time. If you're on a trip, that would add just so much time to your trip, having to stop every 190 miles for 90 minutes. No,
Yes.
thank you.
And I just highlighted something on there. Beyond 94% state of charge, charging rate dropped all the way down to 1 kilowatt and held that for another 2.5 hours. Because they, inside EVs, they're hardcore.
Yeah.
They have more time than I do. And they charge it to 100%, no matter how long it's going to take. This is what they got. Fascinating. So yeah, what do you guys think about the bZ4X? I have nothing against Toyota. I want them to succeed with their electrification strategy. And in fact, my wife and I, we often say, wouldn't it be nice to buy an electric Tacoma someday? But we live in the mountains, so a little truck might be useful for us. But this is not acceptable. So the Electric Viking over on his YouTube channel, he was speculating, what might happen next, who's going to investigate this, because bZ4X in Norway, that Norwegian publication that focuses on EVs, they requested that Toyota kind of explain what's going on. And what Toyota said was, we're going to reach out to the larger Toyota corporation, because they had reached out to like Toyota of Norway, and they said they'll get back to them. And then they asked a different question about the discrepancy in the stated usable battery capacity, which was supposed to be 71 kilowatt hours. That's about the same as my Ioniq 5. But in 3 tests, they found it to be about 64 kilowatt hours. And they had no comment as of, like they had nothing to share. Could this just simply have been a marketing mishap, a communication error? I hope so. That would be a better alternative than it being intentional, right?
Well, I do have this question for you. On all 3 of their tests, was it the same bZ4X?
Good question. I'm going to share the article in the chat, and then I will screen share it one more time. For those of you in English-speaking countries, I guess, no other way to say it, you're going to have to translate this article, but luckily Google makes that easy. All right, just dropped it in the chat. And Justice, maybe you can help me look for that info, because I'm about to screen share it. But yeah, I want to know what you guys are thinking about this. So let us know in the chat. Are you surprised? Are you not surprised? Would you still buy it? Let us know.
Yeah, I don't remember it saying I read the article. I don't remember it saying whether it was the same vehicle. I kind of got the impression it was. So
Yeah,
I had the sort of question of, could that have just been, defects in this particular vehicle? I don't know.
I hope so. That'd be a good thing. But we just saw what Inside EVs found with a completely different bZ4X in the United States.
Yeah.
Took, 4.5 hours to get to 100%. But the number that really matters is 1.5 hours to get to 90%. That's ridiculous. But anyways, so they test EVs all the time at bZ4X in Norway. And they said this is the first time they've had to repeatedly run complete range tests on their standardized course, 70 degrees, because the initial results scared them so much. They're like, is this true? They said that they know lots of people in Norway that have reserved the bZ4X, and apparently this is freaking everyone out. People are canceling left and right. Another interesting fact, and this is something that adds to the controversy aspect. So every EV is going to lose range when you turn on the heater, or if you turn the air conditioning way up, it'll lose range. But Justice, with your experiences with the Model 3, roughly how much range did the Model 3 lose if you turned the heater on? Not on full blast, but just turned it on a little bit. Like a percentage.
I don't remember. Well,
maybe you can try to pull something up, but I know it is not 30% range loss.
It's nowhere close to it.
You can get 30% range loss if it's 25 degrees Fahrenheit outside, there's a headwind, and you've got the heater on because you don't want to freeze to death in your fancy car. Then you can get 30% range loss. But they were at 70 degrees Fahrenheit. They set the climate control to, I forget the conversion, but they set the climate control to, I'm trying to remember my Celsius conversions. It was a reasonable room temperature for the interior of the bZ4X, and that dropped the range estimate on the guessometer by 30%, you guys.
So 17 is the average.
Okay. So 17% on average range loss by using the heater in an EV. They found
in cold weather. So they're saying 20 degrees Fahrenheit
that's a huge difference.
weather.
Okay.
So yeah.
So Justice just said 17% range loss in cold weather with the heater on.
Yep.
With the bZ4X, they found a 30% range loss with just climate control on at 70 degrees Fahrenheit outside. That's where there's an issue. Okay, it's not like this is a cold weather test. It's got me freaking out, Justice, because Toyota, they are the number 1 or number 2 seller by volume of vehicles in the United States. I know they're constantly going back and forth with GM, right?
Yeah. Well, I mean, and Toyota's way up there, though.
Yeah. Thrilled to see that Phil is with us. Thank you for being here, Phil. Phil says, which I believe you live in Michigan, don't you? If you live in
He
a cold
does.
climate, you lose range on heating your car plus lose range because it's just cold. Hey, I'm not going to argue with you here. This is why I wouldn't recommend anyone who needs their truck every day to tow things to go electric in northern climates where your range may literally be 120 miles on a charge if it's 10 degrees Fahrenheit outside and you're towing something. So I can't argue with you there, Phil. Justice, would you say that one thing that makes what you and I do on this channel different is that we don't try to convince everyone to buy an EV? We just try to state the facts and try to get closer to the truth.
Correct. I don't.
Yeah.
I mean, I argue with Phil all day, every day. But otherwise, that's not what I'm here for. I don't try to convince anybody. We're just presenting the facts that are out there.
Yep. I mean, I love my EV, and I know you love driving EVs too. But I mean, as the world really goes towards electrification, there is nuance in the market, and then ownership experiences that are worth talking about. And I think that's what we specialize in. But yeah, so I'll be checking out these comments about the bZ4X and Justice. I know you've got some other news to share with us. You want to dive in?
Yeah. So somewhat related, just in that it's in that area. Sweden announced on November 7th that they were going to end their EV incentives on November 8th. So less than 24 hours notice, they said no more incentives. We're done with that.
That's how you do it.
Which sort of sent some shockwaves into that. I mean, 80% adoption rate, and then all of a sudden they said no more. Germany also ending the EV tax credits, but interestingly, Tesla is saying they will cover those tax credits if you want to buy a Tesla in Germany. So
Wow.
Germany might end them. Tesla will say, okay, we'll give that to you back. Not sure why they weren't doing that in the US this whole time, but okay. Especially since, like that segue,
Yes.
especially since Tesla is being reported now they make $9,500 per vehicle, which is 800% more than Toyota makes per vehicle. 8 times what Toyota makes per vehicle. So for those who say Toyota's messing around with their numbers and trying to inflate their profits by saying there's a shortage of this or that, keep in mind that they make not very much per vehicle. If Tesla's making $9,500 on a vehicle and Toyota is making 8 times less than that, Toyota's still a volume dealer or OEM, and they need to pump things out. They're not trying to play with numbers, I don't think. They would rather just sell a lot more.
Wow, I did not know about this particular news story you just shared with us, Justice. That's wild.
Yeah.
Well, that does have me thinking about the U.S. market. I guess they were at capacity. They were selling every car they could make. It sucks for the consumer. But I guess from a business perspective, it makes sense that Tesla did not pass on the missing incentives that Tesla buyers have not been able to access for the past 2.5 years. Yeah, I guess it makes sense. But what about that new midnight silver or quicksilver color that they're bringing to Giga Berlin? I am a big fan.
I wish they would be able to do that. I understand that it's literally have to shut down and retool in America to bring all these colors. But they're doing, what is it, 28 layers of paint colors to create all these new shades and trims in Berlin.
This sounds ridiculous. 28 layers. Do you really need that many
Yeah,
layers? Is that how paint
that's
shops work?
that's almost Rolls-Royce level stuff, right? Almost about half, but still. I mean, the colors coming out of it are amazing and only available in Germany. So that sucks.
I would be a lot more tempted to buy a Model Y if these colors, especially, I actually like the Quicksilver more. If they were available in the US, not going to, but more tempted. I still plan on keeping my Ioniq 5 for like something ridiculous, like 10 years. I don't know. We'll see. But yeah, I am a big fan of these two new colors. For now, only available from Giga Berlin. But isn't Giga Austin supposed to have some kind of special paint?
Yeah,
Whatever
they
you
have
call
it, but it's not this same paint. But they do have newer paint departments in Austin, and going forward, new Giga factories will have the Berlin paint scheme or paint rooms, whatever it is. But I guess they would have to shut down for like a week.
I like Igor's comment
Yeah.
here.
No,
You just get your car wrapped.
Which a lot of people
True.
do anyway. I mean, a lot of people are going to wrap their vehicle anyway. That's around here in California. Almost everyone has it wrapped. I see a lot of matte colors coming out in wraps. People like them matte.
Kimberly is with us. Thank you so much for being here, Kimberly. I just watched the noon show over on the Ray and Zach channel, and you guys did a wonderful job. Love watching that every Friday. Yeah. I wouldn't quite call it a Mazda, but I respect your comment, Kimberly. That gives me a good chuckle.
It's definitely closer. I see what she says. I think I've seen another picture of it in a little bit more light, and it's not quite that, but that picture actually definitely looks a little more like that Mazda Pearl.
Yep. Any other news this week before we wrap it up in about 3 minutes or so? There's got to be more to talk about, right? Something about Rivian?
Well, yeah, Rivian. Demand is so strong, they lost $1.7 billion in Q3.
That's a lot.
So, I still say, give me $1.7 billion. I'm pretty sure I can make a good go of it.
Yeah.
I don't think I would lose it in a quarter. But then I'm not trying to manufacture cars, so maybe I would. Who knows? But yeah, $1.7 billion loss. And upon that news, their stock went up. I don't know how that worked, but they say they're on track to meet their goals for 2023. So I don't know how that works. 50,000 deliveries by the end of this year, they say.
That's not too bad of a delivery estimate. I think that'd be a success, but yeah, I'm not going to pretend like I know a lot about the financials of starting an EV manufacturing company, but I hope Rivian succeeds because I think their vehicles are pretty awesome.
I love their vehicles, and I really hope they succeed. But just for they have $14 billion in cash on hand still. So they lost 1.7, but they have 14 billion in cash.
It's plenty of cash.
Their forecast of 50,000 deliveries is out of a factory which has a official capacity of 150,000 vehicles. So they're only delivering a third of what they could.
Looking forward to seeing what Rivian can do in 2023. My dad sent me a picture of the very first what do they call it? Electric delivery vehicle, EDV, that he had ever seen. It was an Amazon delivery truck driving around suburban Texas, built by Rivian. And that was kind of surreal to have my dad send me that picture because, it was a neighborhood I was familiar with. And there's this really futuristic looking Amazon delivery vehicle built by Rivian. And my dad, being as friendly as he is, hi, Dad, if you're listening, he went and spoke to the driver who said that it lasts the whole route. Just plug it in overnight. I'm not sure the specifics, but he did say the charge lasts the whole route, and that's what matters, right?
Yep. Yeah, I was able to. I think I told you. I was able to get on one a couple weeks ago. Yeah, because they have them around here, several of them.
That's
And
cool.
I stopped the driver and we were talking, and he was an EV enthusiast, so he let me get on and sort of look around in the front, not in the back package area, but I looked through the
Wow.
door, and it was really nice. See, the roof is glass in the back.
Oh, I didn't know that. Well, there's a lot of
I
hail in Texas. Better be bulletproof glass.
Well, I'm sure it's the
Something
Tesla
like Tesla.
Rivian,
Yeah.
yeah. But yeah, so he didn't have any lights on, but it was super bright in the back, and he says that helps with saving energy on the vehicle when you're driving and all that. So
Interesting.
it's a nice vehicle.
Monday, we will be back with the latest EV price update because we've got new numbers. EV prices dropped by a little bit in October. Not a lot bit, but a little bit. And at the same time that the average transaction price for the overall market continued to increase by a few $100s. So I guess that's good news, but we're going to talk about the details because it's not all good news. If you want a sneak peek at that, I'm dropping a link to my article in the chat right now, and you can take a look at the latest EV price numbers. But Justice, this has been a really good show. Wishing Toyota the best. Toyota, if you want to have someone come on the show, that would be awesome. We'd love to talk about your bZ4X and the Subaru Solterra. Hoping that they get all of that worked out because I don't want them to fail. But yeah, interesting news coming out of Norway's bZ4X testing.
Yep, lots of questions there, but hoping Toyota the best and hope this all gets worked out.
Yep, and everyone be sure to thank a veteran today. We've got a Veterans Day promotion over at joinyaa.com. So if you want to learn more about all of the wonderful benefits of membership, you can save a lot of money by being a YAA member. It's the membership that literally pays for itself, kind of like Costco, I guess. Head over to joinyaa.com to see all the details and take advantage of that one-day discount we've got going on. But I'm going to be sure to thank a veteran, and you guys do the same. Thank you, vets. That's why we have America the Free. But we'll see you guys on Monday.
Yep.
Have a beautiful weekend.
Bye, everybody.